Census 2020. Everyone counts. Every 10 years, the federal government is required to count every person living in the United States, regardless of citizenship status, age, or criminal history. This is done by asking all households to complete a brief census form. The census is required by the U.S. Constitution so that we have an accurate count of who lives where and basic information about each member of the household. The information collected is combined into statistics that are used for important policy, program, and budget decisions. The census is the cornerstone of our democracy, making sure everyone has representation and that resources are fairly distributed. The next National Census Day is April 1st, 2020. The census data collected in 2020 will be the official statistics that are used for many important decisions that will affect all of us for the following 10 years. The federal government uses census data to decide how to distribute $800 billion per year in funding to state and local governments based on the number of people living there. These funds go toward critical community programs that support education, health, childcare, transportation, housing, and other services that residents rely on day to day. Census data is also used to decide the number of representatives each state sends to Congress and sets district boundaries for congressional, state senator, assembly member, county supervisor, and city council elections. We need to know how many people live where so we can make sure all residents are represented fairly in local, state, and national government. Census statistics are the main source of data used by local governments, businesses, and nonprofits to make decisions. For example, local governments need to understand where to provide utilities and where to build the parks, schools, libraries, and roads that we all use. Businesses rely on census data to decide where to build factories, offices, and stores, which create local jobs. And nonprofits use census data to determine what services to provide, as well as where and how to provide them. Census 2020 will ask basic information about each household, including the total number of people living there, whether related or not, whether the residence is owned or rented, and a phone number to follow up. For each person living in the household, it will ask their name, sex, age and date of birth, and race ethnicity. Census 2020 will not ask about citizenship status. The Census Bureau is required by law to keep the information they collect confidential. Title 13 of the U.S. Code makes it against the law to share or publish any private information that identifies an individual, including names, addresses, and telephone numbers. This same law only allows information collected by the Census Bureau to be used to produce statistics. Personal information cannot be used against an individual by any government agency or court. Individual census information will not be shared with the IRS, FBI, welfare, immigration, or local law enforcement agencies. The Census Bureau takes many steps to protect the privacy and security of the information they collect. The Census Bureau follows IT industry best practices and federal requirements to protect information from data collection to data storage. Before any statistics are published, the Census Bureau applies safeguards that help prevent someone from being able to trace statistics back to a specific respondent. And for 2020, the Census Bureau will use a powerful new privacy protection system designed specifically for today's digital world. Every person with access to data collected by the Census Bureau is sworn for life to protect individual information. And if they violate that law, they will face severe penalties, including a fine of up to $250,000, a federal prison sentence of up to 5 years, or both. These strong protections are in place because the Census Bureau wants everyone to feel safe in being counted. Beginning in late March 2020, Residents will be able to complete the census form online, on paper, or via phone in different languages. Most households in San Mateo County will receive a postcard with instructions on how to complete the census online. Residents who do not have broadband access can answer the questions over the phone or wait until they receive a paper form in the mail. There will be support for residents who need help completing the census, including language assistance, disability accommodation, and digital support. For households that do not complete the census on their own, Census Bureau workers, called enumerators, will visit residences to collect the information beginning in May 2020. Households will receive 3 mailed reminders to complete the census form before they send enumerators out to gather information through in-person interviews. The Census Bureau will be tracking self-response and share this information publicly so that local governments and community-based organizations can focus their outreach in areas that need support. If the Census Bureau is unable to gather information from a household through self-response or in-person follow-up, they will have to estimate the data. There are special efforts planned to count the homeless and those living in group quarters. People experiencing homelessness or living in transitory locations like campgrounds, tent cities, and hotels will be counted in March 2020. This is called service-based enumeration. People living in institutional facilities like jails, nursing homes, mental hospitals, and those living in group quarters like dorms, barracks, and shelters will be counted in April 2020. The goal of the Census Bureau is to count every person just once where they usually live on April 1st, 2020. For Census 2020, most residents will receive the census invitation in English, unless they live in an area with high rates of Spanish speakers. The paper form will be available in English and Spanish only. Residents can complete the form online or on the phone in English and 12 other languages, which include Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian, Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. Language glossaries and video guides will be provided for a total of 59 languages. Everyone who is living in the United States on April 1st, 2020 should be counted in the upcoming census. Unlike voting, the census count includes everyone regardless of age, citizenship status, and criminal history. Do not forget to count children of all ages, extended family members like grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and non-family members like friends and roommates who may be living in the household. Information about overcrowded housing will not be shared with code enforcement officials. We need to make sure every person is counted so that we have enough funding and resources for the programs and services that we all rely on. Unfortunately, 3 out of 4 Californians belong to one or more groups that tend to be undercounted in the census. This includes immigrants, people of color, households with low income or limited English proficiency, children under 5 years old, and people with unstable housing. San Mateo County is home to many of these groups. For example, 35% of county residents are foreign-born, and 47% of county residents speak a language other than English at home, with over 100 languages spoken in our county alone. For the upcoming census, there are new challenges due to the current political climate and changes in how the census will be conducted. These new challenges mean more county residents that will be less likely to respond and harder to count. But we can't afford to have an undercount because there is too much at stake. Of the $675 billion in annual federal funding that went to states in fiscal year 2015, California received close to $77 billion. That amounts to approximately $1,000 per resident per year that are determined by the census count. This federal funding supports critical public assistance programs for our local residents. including Head Start, WIC and school lunches, child care and foster care, affordable housing for elderly and persons with disabilities, and federal transit and capital investment grants. In addition to funding, the state legislative analysts warned that California is at risk of losing congressional seats due to potential undercounting. The Census 2020 count will also impact redistricting in 2021. Lastly, census data guides policymaking, budget allocation, and program planning. We need to make sure we have accurate data to make good decisions about what programs and services are needed to meet resident needs, where to build roads and provide public transportation, and how to support schools to make sure that children thrive. That's why San Mateo County has invested considerable time and resources into supporting the participation of all residents in Census 2020. In December 2018, a county census steering committee was formed to guide the county's complete count efforts. This committee includes representatives from each district, directors of county departments that serve residents who are unlikely to respond, and managers of cities that have hard-to-count areas. In January 2019, a complete count committee with stakeholders across sectors was established to provide leadership and support for county-wide census efforts. This committee is co-chaired by the County of San Mateo, Thrive Alliance of Nonprofits, and the San Mateo County Economic Development Association. Members of the Complete Count Committee led the formation of strategy work groups that met between April and August 2019 to craft local strategies, messaging, and toolkits to promote census participation. From fall 2019 through May 2020, the county will support the creation of community action teams, training of census ambassadors, and funding of mini-grants for census outreach to ensure that all residents are educated, motivated, and activated to participate. In April and May 2020, the county and other partners will provide census questionnaire assistance and support to facilitate access and completion of Census 2020. We need your support to make sure everyone in San Mateo County is counted in Census 2020. Please spread the word to family, friends, and colleagues. Explain what Census 2020 is and why it matters. Let them know how it is easy and safe to complete and that there will be help if they need it. And encourage them to participate starting in March 2020. Find out what your organization is doing to support census outreach and share information if they aren't already involved. Please help us ensure that everyone counts. For more information about Census 2020 efforts in San Mateo County, visit our website, follow us on social media, or email us. Thank you.